This is The Experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey there, hi there, ho there. You're as welcome as can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCann. Welcome to Friday Night Live on The Experience.
Welcome, everybody. It's Fat Jack's Comic Crypt. Brendan, Al, Jason, hanging out.
There I am. Welcome back to Kicking It with Henry, folks. I am your host, Henry Copeland. It's great to be here with you guys.
So we are going to talk about books that are in stores this week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mishmash.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics.
And you gotta love it that the first people in the minute to skim it are creators.
Up, everybody! Welcome to another Wednesday Warriors. My name is Joey Galvez, and this is my pal Ambrosia.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to Space Cadet.
Hey!
What's up?
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of I Must Ask You a Question.
Hi, everybody! Welcome to Nerd News Now.
Hey, this is Rex. Welcome to Comic Collectibles.
Hey, hello, all you happy people. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Is the crazy show that we do on Thursdays called What's in the Box? What's in the Box?
Comic culture and sales.
You know, it almost feels redundant to say it now that it's in those commercials, but hey, everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. It's Thursday. We've made it. Third day of the show. Last day for me here of the week. I'm not leaving. But yeah, we made it to Thursday. Definitely weird day. You know, the whole world seems to have turned upside down. I didn't sleep much last night, probably like a lot of people. I turned on the news before I went to bed and suddenly watched as everything went to hell. So, yeah, I get it. I understand. And I am hoping that this turns out to not be a long, drawn-out engagement. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, but sometimes the world's just a crazy place, isn't it? And we don't understand people, and yeah. All right, but we're not going to talk about that much here. We are here to talk about pop culture and things to get your mind off of that kind of stuff. If you wanted that, you'd be tuned into CNN or one of the other news stations. So today we're going to talk about the last 3 episodes of Legend of Vox Machina. But before we do that, I had reason to revisit something I had written a while back. Now, I don't know how many people know my history anyway. I mean, you come on the Dan Wickline Show, but who the hell's Dan Wickline? Well, one of the things I used to do, besides writing comics and novels and whatnot, is I worked for Bleeding Cool for 5 years. I started in June, or basically the beginning of July of 2013, and I turned in my last article at the end of June 2018. So, I mean, it was pretty much a straight 5 years that I worked. And in that time, I wrote a ton of articles. And when I say a ton, I do mean a ton. I wrote 14,000 articles in 5 years. And it varied from quick news flashes to more in-depth stories, opinion pieces, obituaries, just all over the board. I mean, basically, when I got there, it was Rich Johnson, a guy named Brandon Connolly, I believe, and myself. And I was pretty much filling in on the, Rich did comics, Brandon did entertainment, and I kind of bounced back and forth, creating a handful of articles a day. When Brandon left, I went up. I started doing more. I started doing more of the entertainment side. And it just got to a point where I was doing 10 stories a day, 7 days a week, every day. Doing like 300 articles a month. Was it 300? Yeah. So that's how I quickly got up to 14,000 stories in 5 years. Now, like I said, I had reason yesterday to visit one of the last stories I did over at Bleeding Cool. And I was kind of fascinated by it because it's very appropriate for right now. What had happened was that this was June 29th, 2018. Kevin Feige had talked about how he wanted to do a Moon Knight project. Now, when he mentioned it, he didn't say what the project was he wanted to do. But Kevin Feige was doing movies. This was before the big split with Marvel Television, I believe. The Netflix shows were still somewhat in production. None of the Disney Plus wasn't even a thing. We didn't know what Disney Plus was going to be. Basically, Marvel movies were in the theater. Marvel Television was on Netflix or Hulu. That was what we had in the summer of 2018. So I wrote this article, an opinion piece, and like I said, I did a lot of them then. And basically my opinion was Marvel should not make a Moon Knight movie. And I'm going to read the article because I think that the points were very salient, and it's kind of why it went the way it went, I think. So, again, this is from Bleeding Cool, June 29th, 2018. Back in April, Marvel Studios' Kevin Feige said they had plans for the character of Moon Knight, and most people took it as a coming Moon Knight film. While Feige didn't say that specifically, and what he did say basically gave a wide open description on when, hinting that it could be 10, 15 years down the line, I'd like to state very clearly that I think a Moon Knight movie is a horrible idea. Moon Knight is a very interesting character that was created by Doug Mensch and Don Perlin as an antagonist for Werewolf by Night in issue number 32 in 1975. He was a mercenary who ends up with werewolf blood in his system that makes him stronger during the full moon, and is given a costume by an evil corporation and sent to capture Jack Russell. He was essentially a clone of Batman, right down to the flying copter and his pilot friend Frenchie, who was basically Alfred. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second. Since doing that, and since looking deeper into Moon Knight, I am less and less convinced that he's Marvel's Batman as I am he's Marvel's The Shadow. And I've done stories about that as well. But here I was still kind of the 10-foot approach to it. When the character became popular, Marvel let Munch continue. By the way, Doug Munch's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday. Continue with him, creating a character with multiple personalities, a very convoluted origin story that may or may not involve the Egyptian god of the moon, Khonshu. As for his personalities, there's mercenary Mark Spector, billionaire Stephen Grant, cab driver Jake Lockley. For him, it's more than just an alias, though. He becomes the other versions of himself. Now, even if they go with the 40-plus year history of the character and decide on a specific origin, whether it involves a werewolf or an Egyptian god or an African mercenary, they still have the personality issues to deal with. I can't see all of them being set up and paid off in a 2-hour movie. It's too complex of a character and story. This needs the long-form storytelling that you can only get on television. And in this case, I think it specifically needs to go to Netflix to join their series there. Now, in a 13-episode format, the writers could take the time to establish each of the personalities as unique characters, better selling the mental issues. You can bring in his girlfriend Marlene and spend some time developing Frenchie. You could also explore his time in Egypt and the mythological aspects of the character. That would have to be quickly brushed over in a film. Now, while Moon Knight is he has an interesting costume, he doesn't have that spectacular aspect that would make a movie work. Spider-Man has his villains and web swinging. Iron Man has his tech and big bold visions that need to be splashed across the screen. Moon Knight is a street-level vigilante whose biggest villains are another mercenary named Bushman and his brother Randall. This isn't a cosmic story. It's more likely to take place in the back streets of Flatbush. Now, I'm a Moon Knight fan, and I want to see the live-action version, but I think the perfect home for him is in the world already home to Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and the Punisher. Giving him his own movie with all the financial expectations that go with it is a horrible idea. So yeah, I wrote that 4 years ago now, almost 4 years ago. And I'm glad to see that Marvel did think similar. They realized that Moon Knight wasn't a movie star character. Now, that's not saying he can't work in the movies. If they do another Avengers movie or another group movie and Moon Knight is part of it, I think he'll work fine. My thought is, though, to create the character, to build the character, you really need the long-form format of a television series. Now, I'm not sure how many episodes. I think it's going to be 6 or 8. Probably 6. So it still seems a little short to me. And maybe from the trailers, maybe we're not getting all of the personalities. And they are kind of jumping in the middle. So there's definitely some stuff that's not being dealt with in the TV series. But still, 6 hours makes a lot more sense than 4 hours for a character this complex. And if you're thinking, well, Dan, you got that right, but he didn't go to Netflix and he didn't go to where Daredevil and all of them are. Well, reports, we've been hearing reports for the last couple of weeks that if you watch any of the Netflix characters like Daredevil and stuff on Netflix, you see a report or you see a warning or a mention that the shows are leaving Netflix at the end of the month. So if you're watching Jessica Jones season 3, you haven't finished it yet, you might want to get onto Netflix and finish that up, which, what I'm doing. I'm only about 3 episodes in. I really have to get back to that. But the news come out yesterday, and this is particular to Canada, but Canada and US usually have the same setup when it comes to Disney Plus. But according to a press release from, not press release, but something from Canada talking about the upcoming Moon Knight series, it lists that Moon Knight comes out on March 30th, but it also lists that new to Disney Plus on March 15th is going to be Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Defenders, Punisher, Jessica, all that stuff is going to Disney Plus. And there's been a lot of talk about where that's going to go, which channel it'll be appropriate for. Will they show up on Hulu? And it looks like, unless they're doing something different in the US than they are in Canada, every indication is that it's going to show up next month on Disney Plus, which is awesome, which means that those shows will now be, Disney Plus will be the home of those shows, and Moon Knight will end up on the same channel. So, kind of got it right. But I am looking forward to Moon Knight. It's a character that I've greatly loved for a long time. I have the Essential books. They just came out with the 3rd Essentials, which wraps up the Bill Sienkiewicz stuff, the original Moon Knight, the big series that went, I think it was close to 50 issues. So the 3 Essentials collect the first appearances in Werewolf by Night, his appearances in the Defenders, and then showing up in the Hulk magazine, and eventually getting his own series. So that's all in those first three. I don't know if they're going to do any more of those and cover the rest of the stuff. We'll have to see. There's plenty of trades out there, though, for the stuff like Jason Burrows' run, and and you may want to look into the Jason Burrows run. I don't remember the author on them. Feel bad about that, but what they did was that's where they introduced the character of the Sun King, and they introduced Mr. Knight, which rumors are that character, that personality may pop up as well. I kind of hope he doesn't, because I think I'm good with the Sun King, and I think Arthur Harrow is going to be a version of the Sun King. They're going to combine those two characters. But I think there's a lot to establish in 6 episodes. So I hope they don't overload them by trying to put everything in. And Mr. Knight, to me, is a much later incarnation, and they could do without him up front. That could be a season 2 thing, if there is a season 2. I don't know if we necessarily need to get to him right away, but Marvel will do what Marvel will do, right? So, all right. So that was my thoughts on Moon Knight. And also, just to catch you guys up, there were 2 casting announcements. Oh, man. I should probably pull those names, because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm a little under the weather today, so that's why. Okay, let's see. The first one was earlier this week. Deadline reported that the actor from Lotus, Fred Heschinger, has been cast to play Dmitry Smerdyakov. Wow. The character known as the Chameleon. And the Chameleon is basically Kraven's half-brother. Sergei Kravanov's half-brother is Dmitry. So when they've cast him to be in the Kraven the Hunter movie, they've already cast Russell Crowe in it. And I'm wondering if he's going to be the patriarch of the family, something like that. But they're adding to the Chameleon or the Kraven story, so there's a good chance we're going to start seeing that move into production soon. It's going to be directed by J.C. Chandor, and of course Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing Kraven. It's going to be it's written by Richard Wenk, is the original author on it, or writer, and then Art Markham and Matt Holloway joined in later on. So we'll have to see how that turns out. The other casting announcement is Blade. Let's see. I know that one just popped up. Yeah, it added Aaron Pierre, who was in the TV series Krypton. He has joined Blade. He's a 27-year-old British actor. He's going to co-star with Mahershala Ali and, of course, Delroy Lindo, who had already joined the cast. So, and again, when we start seeing these casting for the somewhat smaller roles, that's when we can expect that things are starting to move into production. Normally they don't bring those characters, the smaller roles in, they don't fill them in. But when you start seeing, Delroy Lindo's cast, Aaron Pierre's cast, that's when you get an idea, okay, we're probably going into production soon. At least for the characters that need, Russell Crowe as Kraven's dad. Yes. I think Kraven, or it could be a case where Russell Crowe is Kraven the Hunter and Aaron Taylor Johnson's the new version of Kraven. Like he's kind of taken over the family thing. There's an interesting Kraven story that has Kraven basically creating a bunch of clones of himself, teaching them all how to be ultimate hunters, and then send them out in the world to prove themselves. And one of them decides that he's going to hunt all the other Kravens to prove that he is the best Kraven. and then eventually kill the original Kraven. And I think that one eventually takes over. So it could be something like that too. I know. Comics. All right. We should probably talk about, let me give you the rundown for the rest of today. We've got What's in the Box, comes up right after this. That's where Miss Jen runs into her warehouse, grabs a random box, opens it up, and just sells what's in it, which hopefully isn't like her lunch. That would be a very odd episode. What do we got today? Oh, tuna fish on rye. Now, after that, at 5 p.m. is Space Cadets, which is Jenna and Shanice and Bean. And they talk about random stuff, but pop culture stuff. And Jenna is this high energy person. If you haven't watched the show yet, it's well worth watching. Also, we have a brand new show. And I don't know very much about it other than the name, but it's a game show hosted by Miss Jen, where nerds do what nerds do best, argue over imaginary things. It's called Nerdcular War. Nuclear War. Nerdcular War. And the first episode is going to be Sidekicks and Supersuits. And that airs tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And then that will lead into our late night show of Kicking It with Henri. And Henri slings his comics, rare books, and great deals from his Chicago warehouse. So we got quite a lineup going here. I'm just the start of this.
Hey, you should also give a shout out to all of our friends at Comics Pro who are watching you live right now.
Comics Pro's watching me live?
Yeah, you're streaming in our booth.
Oh, Lord, I wish I would have known. I would have done a better show.
Meh.
Eh.
Let's not set the bar very high. I've been doing a really bad job of representing us at the convention, so keep the bar low so I don't have to try.
Thanks, man.
No, I'm giving you a hard time. Yeah, don't raise expectations because I can't meet them. You certainly could. I could not.
So you want to stick around and talk Vox Machina?
We can.
Yeah, stick around, man.
All
That's
right.
where we're going, folks. We're going to talk Vox Machina. And let's go ahead and run that spoiler warning so that we can talk all the dirty stuff. Go ahead. Okay, if you don't know what Vox Machina is and you've been living under a rock, The Legend of Vox Machina is the animated series on Amazon Prime that is based off of the initial campaign for the folks over at Critical Role. Critical Role is a group of voice actors led by Matt Mercer that played D&D live, and they've been doing it. They started off on Geek and Sundry. They now have their own web channel or their own YouTube channel and all that stuff, their Twitch channel. And they're just started their third campaign. I think they're like 13 or 14 episodes in. And the second campaign wrapped up. But during the second campaign, they decided to do a Kickstarter for an animated special that blew up big time. It is the largest Kickstarter ever run. Prior to that, it had been the relaunch of MST 3000, and these guys passed it. And in doing so, they made so much money that basically the special turned into a 12-episode series that has already been renewed for season 2 now. This has been an incredible show. It includes, let's see if I can remember all the names off the top of my head. Sam Riegel, Marsha Ray, Travis Willingham, Laura Bailey, Taliesin Jaffe, Liam O'Brien, Ashley Johnson. Hey, I got them all. And a few guests occasionally. JD says, I know there's no time now. What the heck happened to Geek and Sundry? Might be a good show topic. I got to tell you the truth. I don't know much about Geek and Sundry. I learned about Geek and Sundry watching watching Critical Role, and as they transferred. So I wasn't a Geek and Sundry fan before, but we could talk about that, try to figure it out. Vox Machina, I didn't watch the first campaign. I got involved in the second campaign. I got involved because Lisa's daughter asked me to teach her how to play Dungeons and Dragons. I had only been playing about a year or so myself when Matt Hawkins from Top Cow asked me if I wanted to play, and I joined that group, along with Ryan Cady and Daniel Peterson from Skybound. It was an interesting group. Well, I went out to try to figure out how to be a DM, started watching shows, and my mistake was I started watching Matt Mercer as a DM, who is fantastic. Okay, Matt Mercer may be one of the best DMs out there. Storytelling, the whole thing, and all of his campaigns, whether it's Vox Machina, the Mighty Nine, or this new one, which I think is Exandria Unlimited. These are all his world, and his world has been so good that D&D has actually commissioned him to write books and stuff based on his universe and join them in. So yeah, it's kind of this huge thing now. And it went from being this group of friends who sat around a table playing D&D and then decided to record it to this megalith. And Vox Machina, Legend of Vox Machina came out of that, and they're still going strong. But the series debuted a couple weeks ago. They've been dropping 3 episodes per week. And like I said, it has been an absolute juggernaut. The series follows a group called Vox Machina. It's 7 players. There is a bard named Scanlan. There is a barbarian named Grog, a druid named Calith. There's a hunter named Vex and a rogue named Vax, who are twins, I believe. There's is she a paladin or a cleric? I think she's a cleric named Pike. And who am I missing? Oh, and of course, there's Percy. Now, Percy's the interesting one. If you're a D&D fan and you turn on this show and you go, how is this based on D&D? The guy's running around with a gun. They started off playing Pathfinder, where a gunslinger is a character. Then they switched over to when 5e came out to D&D, and Matt made some adjustments as a DM, and you can as a DM, to make Percy's character continue to exist. This is Taliesin Jaffe's character, and he's critical, no pun intended, to the first season of Vox Machina. It's kind of Percy's origin story in a way, and that's what we've been dealing with this season. Is we find out that the first 2 episodes, which would have been the special, they ended up breaking it into 2 episodes, was basically them coming to Alexandria and getting in good with the king, stuff like that, taking on a blue dragon, and that's that. It was a nice little story, but it was an introductory story. It was like a pilot episode where really got into the meat of these characters is when they start off on the Briarwood campaign. And Briarwood is this husband and wife who came in and took over Percy's home, the land. I mean, he was a lord, basically, or his father was a lord, and he was to inherit all this. And the Briarwoods came in, and Silas is basically a vampire, and his wife is a sorceress, necromancer. Not too sure on what class she would fall into, but the idea is that they turned a lot of people against the family that ran was it Whitehall? The land, the lord and stuff. And they took over the family. They kidnapped his sister, and he got away. But that's the basic catch up on the setup. So they're in Exandria, and they discover that the Briarwoods are coming to town, and they, of course, mentally manipulate the king and start doing some bad stuff there. And, of course, Percy has this obsession with killing everybody that hurt his family, which totally understandable. I am behind that idea. I guess I shouldn't say that, but no, I am absolutely behind that idea. And so that's what basically the other 10 episodes is the tale of the Briarwoods and Percy getting revenge. And we go back to that area. We meet the people he grew up with, the resistance. We find out more and more about the people that were basically working for Percival's family and then turned against them, their teacher and stuff like that. Now, I'm going to pause for a second and mention that when they play the game, the 7 players play their characters, and Matt Mercer plays everybody else, does every other voice. And again, this is a group of talented voice actors. Matt is top level. He does a lot of video games. He does a lot of car animation. You've probably heard him. If you play Overwatch, he's the voice of the cowboy. He's everywhere. And he does all of these characters. Well, not to overwork him in the animated series, and also because they had a good budget, they had Amazon Prime behind them, they were able to go out and get certain voice actors to come in. And certain actors to come in and play certain roles. For example, one of the bad guys is played by Stephen Root. And we talked about Stephen Root in the Book of Boba Fett because he tends to just show up everywhere. He was the nerdy guy with the red stapler in Office Space. He was the boss on news radio. He just shows up everywhere. And in Book of Boba Fett, he's the water merchant or the watermonger. And just Stephen Root. He's this great actor. Well, he shows up here as their teacher. David Tennant, Doctor Who, the Purple Man, he shows up as a character, and they get a lot of these great voice actors that come in and take over some of the roles. And some of them are just, that's what they are. The voice actors, they're voice actors we grew up with. Other ones are, screen actors, stuff like that. But they bring in a pretty incredible cast so that Matt only has to do a handful of voices, including Silas Briarwood. So he gets to play the big bad of the season, which I think is appropriate. Dan, do you know what Vox Machina means? I'm not sure what it means in pertaining to the group. I know that Latin, it means voice of the machine.
It just means voice machine. So you have a bunch of voice actors. Like if you're voice actors and you're gonna put a play group together, call yourself Voice Machine. It sounds badass.
Yes, but call it in Latin.
Right.
Yeah. Are you sure it's not voice of the machine?
It depends on the exact way you. It depends. It would be context clues.
Yeah, because I know Vox Populi is voice of the people.
Well, but it's so Vox Populi, Vox Dei means the voice of people is the voice of God, and you get the thes because of the context clues of the sentence.
Okay, so it's just voice machine.
Voice machine.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of comedian Burt Kreischer, voice machine, which I think is kind of a badass thing. So
you're gonna just stick around now that you're popped back up?
I can.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to bring me in.
Huh. By the way, this is producer Kyle. He's over there. He's also watched Vox Machina, which I know you've had some interesting feelings on. Originally, you said you wish they'd made it more game-driven.
I still feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that if you're somebody who doesn't play D&D, but you like animation, you like stuff like that, and fantasy, this is great. You can sit down. You don't have to know anything. They give you everything you need. But if you are a D&D fan, there are nods and winks to things throughout it. And if you're a Critical Role fan, there are so many little cute, fun Easter eggs, even to other later campaigns, that it's really a fun watch. But you actually wanted to see character sheets and stuff pop up.
Well, so my thing is that I know, because I know what Critical Role is, that it's Dungeons and Dragons based.
Yes.
If you didn't know that, you just watched an anime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want some of the decisions that are made and some of the way things go down in the show are classic D&D tropes that I'm sure are results of these characters rolling fabulously or rolling poorly. You don't have any of that context.
Yes.
There's it's episode 3 or 4. There's an episode where they're trying to get through a door.
Mm-hmm.
And half the party goes to the front door and just walks right through. The other half goes to the back door and cannot get in for the life of them, despite having the guy who picks locks. That is 100%. I cannot believe I just rolled a 2 on this super easy lockpick check, or he tries to climb through the window and falls out. That's totally a fail in a grace or a stealth kind of roll, like 100%. So having that context, I think, would have provided a lot for the D&D fans.
But my thought is that this wasn't made just for D&D fans.
That's where I was getting. Having watched it all now,
yeah,
what I would like is a commentary track. I could go in and choose a different audio track,
and
I can listen to them saying, or even just explaining what's happening in their playing of this campaign.
Mm-hmm.
You hear Ashley Johnson go, "Oh, I was doing this thing and I rolled a 2 and I set the tree on fire." Just to kind of give you that, okay, is this a narrative choice or is this a outcome of play?
But they could also simply give you the episodes of Critical Role where they played this.
Oh, certainly.
And you can go to Geek and Sundry and they're on there, and you can recheck out those, and see exactly how it played out.
Right. No,
Which could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I can get what I'm looking for in a number of ways, right? It could be an additional audio file. It could be some downloadable content, off their website. It can be YouTube videos. It can be whatever they want to do. I'm not saying that Amazon needs to upload it this way as a season. It could be a companion piece.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, my dad watched the last 3 episodes with me. He has no interest in anime or interest in D&D, but it was a decent action sequences over and over and over again. So he sat and watched going, "What are you watching?"
Yeah.
But he sat and watched them. So he's not going to want to see either of those things. So I'm looking for a companion piece of some kind or something that I can choose to immerse myself in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we got our final 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that they wrap things up satisfactorily? Not counting the last couple minutes.
No. It felt like okay, I understand why you're ending it here, but I was unsatisfied. Because what's her name gets away? Ripley. And now that we're sitting here talking about it, I can't remember if Lady Briarwood dies in the end or not.
She dies. The
Okay,
sister.
yeah, that's right. That's 100% right. I remember that now. I couldn't remember that scene for a second.
Yeah.
But there's still unfinished business in this regard. And there were a couple of things that kind of got explained away in a way that I didn't find totally satisfying in a narrative sense. But again, if I had seen the play, maybe it's just one of those things. Oh, you hit a nat 20. Well, this is what has to happen.
Yep. It's like I didn't watch it, but I totally could see Sam Riegel as Scanlan picking up Percy's gun and just tossing it into the acid as a joke.
Well, or it's one of those things is that Sam Riegel as Scanlan, is rolling some sort of check to see, is there anything else that they need to deal with, and rolling a nat 20 and him having to be told, there's still a demon in that gun, man. And so he knows to throw it in the acid.
Yep.
Like that to me is an unsatisfactory ending for a story with a demon, right? But again, you roll a 20, stuff happens.
But I think they made it satisfactory, and that was the dialogue immediately after when he says, how'd you know it was in there? Lucky guess. Wild guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was certainly, I would say that it ended in a satisfying enough way. Maybe not as satisfying as I would have liked it.
Yeah.
But certainly satisfying enough.
Yeah. Now, what do you think of the characters?
The twins bug the crap out of me. I hate rogues and rangers, and I'm going to sneak around and kill you with these tiny little knives. Or, as a character type, I hate them, and I didn't like the incestuous feel that it had at times.
Okay.
It felt like it was like, okay, are they going to hook up now? Like, and it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing I don't like. JD says Kyle is Grog. I am half Grog, half Scanlan. I'm Scanlan in Grog's body. With Grog's intelligence. I would be the bard who's singing, going to kill all the things, going to kill all the things.
Yeah, I'm half Scanlan, half Percival.
That was, and so let me put this on you, Dan, with Percy.
Okay.
Gun gets thrown into the acid at the end.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't have his gun anymore, so he's not a gunslinger anymore.
Right.
So now what character class is he in the next season? That will be interesting to me.
But he rebuilds his gun at the end. Makes a new gun.
He does make a new gun, but is it the same kind of gun? Like the thing about the pepper box. The thing about the pepper box is that it is very much demon endowed. Is his new gun maybe a little more period appropriate?
I don't know.
And does that take him more into that ranger category? Or that, scout kind of category that you could fall into?
He's kind of an interesting character that doesn't really fit.
Right. especially without that particular gun.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
so that will be interesting to me to see.
And having not watched most of Vox Machina, like I said, I came in for Mighty Nine, but the hook for me was the Vox Machina live special, The Search for Grog. So I don't know that much about the characters other than what I've watched in the show. And I mean, I watched a few episodes, but so yeah, I'm not sure what Percy actually is. You know, Gunslinger in Pathfinder made sense, but after that, is he a variation on a rogue? Is he a variation on a fighter?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is there's no clear answer to that question.
Yeah,
and while that's not a bad thing, it's just something that's going to have to be sort of sussed out.
Now, what's interesting is where I could see him now is that new class. The what the hell is it called? And I say new class. It's a few years old now, but the ones that build things.
Oh yeah.
Artificer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I could see him being an artificer.
I think that would be the correct route to go.
Yeah.
Like he's always crafting the proper weapon for the campaign.
Yeah.
I dig that one. Like I said, in the end, I think the story went exactly the way it would go if you were playing this campaign with a group of seasoned players. I think from a personal standpoint, there were moments where I was absolutely going, well, I clearly know how this is going to go. And then there were moments where I found myself completely emotionally bereft. There's a scene where Keyleth towards the end is hurt, and they put some herbs and some dirt, and Vex spits in it, and Scanlan casts a spell, and you don't know if it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
And you're going, this is no way to end a series, like with this character dying that you've come to like, especially after they just have their big badass moment. But there were parts that were wildly predictable, and then there were parts that were great because they were super unpredictable. So I think overall the balance was really good. I didn't think the Briarwoods needed to take as long as it did. They maybe could have done it in 9 episodes, and then spent the 10th what would have been the 12th episode setting up that next thing. Instead of just spending the last 2 minutes setting it up.
Well, I don't know if they knew they were getting a second season, so I don't know if that's necessarily supposed to be set up or just a teaser, because there's always more. There's always the next adventure.
Oh, sure. And I understand that, but from a television standpoint, I wish they would have spent this last episode just throwing you headlong into getting ready for the next campaign. And they'll be like, yeah, all right, we're done.
Yeah, I think you can't really work that way unless they come in and go, yeah, we want you to do 5 seasons.
6 seasons in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody gets that. Nobody.
No. And I like I said, I think, again, maybe if they'd raised more money, maybe if there'd have been a different set of circumstances, it would have worked out. That it's just my preference after having watched it all.
Yeah.
I don't think in the process of making it, you could have done anything different.
Right. Plus, they are, in a way, following the game. So that might be what Matt did. That might be exactly how it played out in the game.
Possibly.
And now they know, oh, we got to come back. But, I don't necessarily think... I think the Briarwoods were a little later in the campaign. I think they had some other stuff beforehand because they did this special And they went, well, if we make enough money, we'll do the Briarwoods. And they kept saying that during the campaign. I didn't know who the hell the Briarwoods were. I thought it was a place.
Right. That was one of the other little nitpicks I had, is that they finished the campaign and they're in Whitestone, and like Whitestone is led by this, like the people of Whitestone and the rebellion are kind of led by this healer woman.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know what to call her. She's kind of a mystic character.
Yeah.
But they finish off the Briarwoods. Huzzah! And now we're marching through town like the conquering heroes. And there's all these people who are like sort of around them celebrating them.
Mm-hmm.
But those people have just been through an undetermined amount of time of suffering.
Yes.
I don't buy the whole, okay, everything's great now. Like it's, oh, this girl, either Percy or his sister are going to lead them now. No, it's still that woman. Like, and so I feel like they should have paid tribute to that a little more.
But in defense, in most of the mangas and anime that I've watched, that's pretty consistent.
Oh, sure. Like I said, it's a nitpick. It's not a,
Yeah. So what would you like to see in season 2? My first answer is I want more of Trinket. You got a bear that follows you around. You don't take it with you. That's just wrong. We need more Trinket.
That's true. We do need more bear.
Yeah.
Space Yetis.
Space Yetis.
I don't know. I have no idea. That's a fun thing about Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and playing these games, is that literally anything you can think of, you can basically find a way to do. So I don't know. Maybe I know what they're setting up, but maybe Shrek. I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many opportunities in this world that if you can dream it, you can do it, sort of situation. So I would have no way of guessing or no way of saying what I would like to see. What I would not like to see is another 7-episode, 8-episode, 9-episode story. If you're going to do 12, do 3 4-episode stories.
But, when you are doing a campaign, they tend to go long.
Well, but I mean, you could even give them one overarching kind of tie together.
Yeah.
But do 4 or 3 encounters, essentially, in the solving of one mystery or the solving of one overarching.
Yeah, that is the tricky thing, in that they are following a D&D game.
Mm-hmm.
So how much do you try to stick to the source material, basically, and how much do you change for storytelling?
Right. But one of the campaigns that I've run a bunch, you could very easily have the big boss battle that comes at the end of the one-shot campaign be the end of the series. But to get to that big boss battle, you could have 3, you could have a 2-episode and 2 4-episode arcs.
Yeah.
And it's just getting you from point A to point D. You have to solve the mystery and rid the town of the goblins in point A. Mm-hmm. Then at point B, you've got to actually transverse a dungeon. Then point C, you've got to, beat some elves. And then at point D, you have your boss battle.
Did you get the feeling, like I did, that basically the Briarwoods was Matt's version of the Ravenloft?
I would have to have more context to that, but I thought I thought they were pretty generic, undead, dead baddies. I didn't feel like there was a ton there.
Well, with Scanlan beating some elves can have several different...
Family-friendly show, JD. Family-friendly show.
Hi, folks at Comics Pro. How you doing?
No, and it's true. Like, that would be the interesting part, right? Like, okay, you come across in a series arc or in a mini arc in a bigger series, you come across some elves, and Scanlan's like torn because he doesn't feel like he can, battle his own race. There's some psychological games you can play there.
Scanlan's not an elf. Scanlan's a gnome.
Gnome, elves. I don't really care, Dan.
There's a difference.
Once you're under 5 foot tall, is there really?
Elves are never under 5 foot tall. They're always tall.
I'm thinking of hobbits.
Again, very different.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things is that Keyleth could come across her clan.
Yeah.
And now there's this psychological story you can tell.
If you want to confuse gnomes and halflings, I'm all for it because I confuse them. I don't know what the hell the difference is between the two.
That's fair. That's certainly fair. Like I said, I just think you could do several mini stories and a larger story.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make the season more satisfying.
All right. I think we're going to wrap that up there. We're coming to the end of the show. We were going to be followed by What's in the Box with Miss Jen. And then we will have Space Cadets with Jenna. And we'll have the new show, Nerdcular War. That's going to take me a while. Nerdcular Warfare.
Nerdcular Warfare. If you don't go to the fair, you can't have your war.
Thanks for joining us, Kyle. Bye-bye. All right. I will be back next week. We will talk about... I may do a special on the Illuminati, get you some background on that. Also, the series Pennyworth. If you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, because it was on a rather obscure channel, it is now over on HBO Max, and I'm checking out Season 1. We'll talk about Season 1 some point next week. And who knows what else we'll have. But have a great weekend, folks. Folks at Comics Pro, enjoy. Stick around for What's in the Box with Miss Jen coming up right now. Good night, everybody.